And Tom Harwood, GBNews' political correspondent. You've been over there all day. Let's start with the most extraordinary story. That a Conservative member of Parliament, some are now suggesting perhaps a minister, has been in the House of Commons, in the chamber, and in a committee meeting, I understand, watching pornography on his phone. Tell us this isn't true.
Well, this is the most extraordinary set of allegations to have developed, unfurled really in the last 24 hours. What happened yesterday evening was a group of Conservative MPs were having a meeting trying to talk through how to retain women MPs in Parliament. Many women MPs are now in Parliament, many more than a decade ago, 2 decades ago, but the attrition rate, the rate at which women MPs tend to leave Parliament is much higher than that of men. So they were having this meeting trying to understand how to get women to stay, and it turned into a bit of a situation where one woman after another would stand up and say this gripe and then that gripe. And then one Conservative female MP stood up saying, I have seen someone watching pornography in the chamber. And that was then corroborated by a second female Conservative MP. The most extraordinary allegations that were then raised at Prime Minister's question time today, when the Prime Minister himself confirmed that if that were to be the case, that would be a resigning offence. And we do understand that this is a front bencher.
So when you say, resigning offence means it is a front bencher then?
Well, certainly. With regard to the ministerial code we're talking, which covers this in so many different ways. But it's really interesting because when I sit there during Prime Minister's questions, I'm up in the press gallery.
You can see their phones.
You can see all of their phones. I'm sitting right above the Labour benches. Anyone sitting opposite me, sitting above the government benches, would be able to see whatever. I can see people texting on WhatsApp during Prime Minister's questions. You wouldn't believe the number of people who spend the time doodling on their phones, although I have to say I've not seen anyone watching pornography quite yet.
No. Well, Tom, keep an eye out because you never know what's going to happen over there. On a more serious note, the High Court judgment, please, quick brief for our viewers.
Yes, absolutely. This has been Matt Hancock and Public Health England found to have acted unlawfully with the discharging policy of COVID-positive asymptomatic patients into care homes at the start of the pandemic. Now, this was a case that was taken against Public Health England and the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care in England. We do know this was a policy that was also happening in Scotland, that was also happening in Wales and in Northern Ireland too, but those countries and those health ministers and indeed their public health bodies have not been found against because this was a case brought in England, but really quite significant because it's acknowledging. And one of the key pieces of evidence in this case was Sir Patrick Vallance, who had been on the radio at the time of that policy saying it's likely there's asymptomatic transmission. Key evidence that the top advisors knew asymptomatic transmission was taking place, and yet people were sent into care homes.
And they cleared the hospitals out, they sent them back into the care homes, and 20,000 people died prematurely, unnecessarily. That's about the long and the short of it. But what are the consequences for Matt Hancock or Public Health England?
Well, Public Health England and Matt Hancock no longer exist in the form in which they existed. Matt Hancock, of course, is now a backbench MP, and Public Health England was abolished. There is now the Health Security Agency, albeit run by Dr. Jenny Harries, the same people as before.
There are no consequences.
The real consequences are not there, no. There will likely be...
The real consequences are families out there in the country who lost loved ones prematurely.
And consequences to taxpayers, of course, because ultimately it's the taxpayer who fits the bill for all of these legal actions.
It is somehow this lack of accountability that I think makes the British public so angry. Anything else from PMQs today that really was exciting or not?
Well, it felt like the campaign for the local elections really got off in earnest today. It felt in many ways like an ordinary PMQs, the first for a very long time. Not dominated by Partygate, not dominated by strange unity of the House of Commons when regard to foreign affairs. No, this was a genuine Punch and Judy back and forth. Now, a lot of people say that Punch and Judy politics isn't very good for the House of Commons. I find it quite fun, quite frankly. I think it's quite a good thing.
The whole world loves it.
Yes.
People in America talk about it. They actually like it.
Well, it's a unique part of our politics, and I think it's something that's very good, that in that almost jovial way, but also you can get to the nub of the matter and you can hear that sort of campaigning as well. Boris Johnson got into campaigning mode today, and that was really where he is in his stride, not being on the back foot, but being on the front foot, talking about his local campaign message for these local elections. That, I think, was probably quite a positive way for the Conservatives to end the final PMQs of the session on, although Sir Keir Starmer did get in some good blows as well.
And finally, Renegade. And everybody's in full cry. I can once this name is revealed, I can see demands for resignations. In fact, even the Prime Minister promised the terrors of the earth. Tom, I don't know whether you've heard this, but I've heard this has been gossiped about and talked about on both sides of the House for some time. And then a Conservative member of Parliament, possibly over a glass of wine at lunch, made this comment. It was written up in a certain way, and now the knives are out. Had you heard any of this or not?
Well, the most extraordinary thing here is that the Mail is doubling down and has doubled down today, saying now not one MP, but at least 3 MPs have corroborated this story. And yes, it has been a rumour in Westminster that people have heard fleeting glimpses of over the last few months. The allegation that I've heard, and this isn't, I haven't corroborated this, this is an allegation that I have heard, is that Angela Rayner may have been telling this jokey story to colleagues herself, saying, I've been distracting the Prime Minister at Prime Minister's questions. Now, whether someone got the wrong end of the stick of that, and it turned into something bigger, we don't know, but certainly what's true is the Mail is doubling down on this. They are convinced that they are right to publish this, and they're quite taken aback by some overreach from Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, summoning the editor of the Daily Mail of the Mail on Sunday to Parliament. I mean, quite an extraordinary step, and I think that many colleagues of mine in the parliamentary lobby are a little bit taken aback that that's a step too far for a politician to talk about the free press like that. Yeah, I was very, very surprised. Tom Harwood, great roundup of a fairly extraordinary day once again in Westminster.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.